Hey y'all, my name's Greg. I'm with the Binge List, where we make recommendations for TV shows and movies that you can access from the comfort of your own home. I'm a father and a husband, and I don't really have the time to sit down and watch TV shows and movies like I used to. So there's nothing that I hate more than when I do finally get my kids to sleep. I sit down and I endlessly scroll looking for something, or worse, turn on a show and end up watching a few episodes or half of a movie and then turning it off because it's not what I originally thought it was. So I wanted to make videos like this to help others avoid this same struggle. And next time, you can sit back and enjoy those small windows of time with a great movie or a television show. So today, I'm going to go through 10 ridiculously good Amazon Prime shows that are available right now today with at minimum one season that you can start to binge. So stop scrolling, stop watching half of a show, hang out with us for a few minutes, and in that same amount of time that you would have spent scrolling, we'll give you a couple options that you can jump into today, and know there'll be something on the list that you'll like. So they're in no particular order, but I'm going to start with the list fashion at number 10 with, as you can see, number 10 on the list is Gen V. This is actually one of a spin-off of Amazon's original series, The Boys. And definitely don't take this lightly. I'm a huge fan of the superhero genre, if you can't see. I definitely enjoy that type of content, so don't take superhero movies or TV shows lightly to recommend, but this is a great one. Definitely really enjoyed this. When I first saw that it was released on Amazon, I decided I'd check out episode number 1 on the show. So I'm like, it's late at night, let's see what I can do, see what it's all about, see if it's similar to The Boys, because I did enjoy that show. And I couldn't stop. They had released 3 episodes at that point when it was originally a release, and I essentially stayed up all night watching this show. So definitely recommend it. I can get hooked on it, get binging it right away, as the first season did just conclude itself, so you can watch it all the way through, get your fix of this type of content. The show, it follows a group of young people, or young superheroes, at the school called Godalkin University. It's kind of their superhero college where they learn the trade and understand all the different components of it, things from dealing with the media to actually being a hero. So the main character, Marie Monroe, it's Jazz St. Clair. You may have seen her in Sabrina and some other projects, but she's great in the show. She's phenomenal. She has a very interesting power that you can check out during the show. But it really explores this kind of group that she falls into's physical, moral, and even sexual boundaries throughout the show. So lots of different things. So it's not your typical superhero show. You're not going to be watching this with your kids. This is definitely something that is for adults. I would recommend not watching it with your children, as I have children, so I wouldn't watch it with them. But this show has outrageous scenes, it has ridiculous writing, it has all kinds of things that you love in traditional superhero movies, and then it goes even further. It explores it even further, what a real superhero would do in real life, with the kind of gray area of real life, very different than the DC or Marvel universe, where it's a very black and white environment. There are good guys and there are bad guys. Here it's kind of in the middle. There are good guys who do bad things, and there are bad guys who do things for what can appear as good reasons. So definitely a great show, definitely a huge recommendation. Amazon does a great job with this show. They pumped a ton of money into their original series. I think this one is $11.4 million an episode that they're pumping in. So the effects are phenomenal, the writing's great, the comedy's there, so it's something that hits me. I love that aspect of it. But it also has phenomenal actors and actresses in it, so definitely one to check out. Number 10 on the list is Gen V.
I mean, you're trending.
We're flashing my giant.
Yeah. Right.
Number 9 on the list should be pretty obvious. I did kind of spill the beans a little bit in number 1 or number 10, but couldn't recommend Gen V without recommending its parent series, The Boys, another Amazon original. Just as ridiculous, it's just as dark, and just as outrageous as Gen V in every way, and then some. The Boys, it's a superhero show. It's based on the adult superhero comic series with the same name, created by Garth Ennis. One of my friends asked me about the show when I started watching it, and I made the recommendation to him, and I kind of described it to him as if it would be a mashup of if Marvel met South Park. It really has no limits. It takes the use of superpowers to places you really wouldn't even imagine, and then some. So it pokes fun at the major players like Marvel and DC. So if you're a diehard fan of that, like myself, you'll be able to kind of appreciate it at a whole nother level too. So, but it follows a group of vigilantes. They're actually known as the Boys, hence the title of this here. Determined to take down the corruption of the superheroes and the people that are surrounding them, the corporations, the sponsorship deals, the different things that happen throughout the show. But the supes in this world, they're often exploited. They exploit people with their powers, or they get exploited by others for gains, whether it's financial, power, money, fame, any of the above that you would kind of see in today's world surrounding other popular figures. Because these guys, they're superheroes and they save the day and do all things like that, but they're also movie stars and kind of pop culture icons in this world. So the show is really known for its dark, funny, and kind of thought-provoking content, though. It's not all superheroes and saving the day like you'd see in a lot of other superhero genre-themed titles, like Avengers or Justice League or something like that. But it kind of addresses some real-world issues. It makes it really relatable, makes the cast really relatable despite their super-poweredness. But the cast in the show, unlike Gen V, is a little bit more established. The actors and actresses I'm personally familiar with from other shows and movies. It was a huge selling point for me when I first saw this show being released. But that was many years ago. I believe it's up to their third season right now, with a fourth season on the way. But the cast includes people like Carl Urban, Jensen Ackles, Jack Quaid, Anthony Starr, who honestly, I was a little less familiar with him, but he steals the show. Anytime he's on screen, he plays Homelander, which is the boys' version of Superman. He's limitless power. I mean, he's vulnerable, laser vision. He can fly, all kinds of things like that. But during the scenes, I mean, that stuff's all great, and the action scenes with him are amazing. But it's some of the more simple scenes where he's talking to people. His facial expressions kind of make the scene for me, because he's saying one thing, but his facial expression shows you what he's really thinking, and it can be amazing. He's really, really good in this show. All the characters, though, across this series are very, very relatable characters with super complex backgrounds of where they came from, what their powers are, how they came about getting their powers. But again, super relatable, along with tons of sharp dialogue. It's witty dialogue, so it doesn't always feel super duper heavy, even though something ridiculously heavy can be going on. But unlike Gen V, substantial budget with this show. It's $11.2 million per episode that they were pumping out. Like I said, Amazon definitely puts a lot of money into their shows, which makes them visually stunning. The actors are stunning. The production level is extremely, extremely high. It blends into the real world really good with this show. It's out of this world, ridiculous kind of themes and context in the show, but the scenes, the sets, the places that they visit, the actual interactions they have with people all seem very, very well placed in our world. So definitely going to recommend The Boys. Season 4 is in production. It's expected to return in 2024, but I certainly recommend the show. It's easily worth a 3-season commitment right now.
And what I do want to hear is who you saved this week. Huh?
On to number 8 on this list. It's a little bit of a change of pace from the original two, but Upload, the series on Amazon Prime, is a science fiction comedy drama created by Greg Daniels. He's the creator of The Office and Parks and Recreation, so if you're into that type of humor, this is definitely one that I'd recommend for you. This show, it's set in the not-so-distant future from when it was actually released back in 2020. It's actually today, 2023, but in this future, people can actually upload their consciousness to a virtual afterlife, kind of a VR on steroids type of experience. But the main afterlife that they focus on in this show is actually called Lakeview. Its main character is Nathan Brown. He's played by Robbie Amell. You may have seen him in other shows, movies. He's been in lots of different things, but he's uploaded to Lakeview after his untimely death in a self-driving car accident. The show has tons of dynamics between real life and visiting Lakeview and following Robbie around, but he interacts with the outside world quite a bit. At first, Lakeview just kind of seems like a virtual resort. Endless entertainment, activities, you can go out to eat whatever you want, bacon, donuts for breakfast without gaining any weight. Sounds pretty awesome, but Nathan discovers that Lakeview has some kind of dark secrets connected to his life before his death, leading to him investigating his death and what had happened to him. With the kind of aided by his what they call angel Nora in the show. Upload provides tons and tons of comedy along the way. I mean, it does have some dramatic pieces to it, but tons of comedy overlaid in there, poking fun at tons of things like technology, the afterlife. It raises tons of questions about the future of technology and the AI revolution and virtual reality, even simple things like microtransactions in video games, where you have to pay $2.99 to experience a sneeze in the virtual afterlife. So it's just ridiculous things like that. But it's smart, it's funny, it's writing, it's very clever humor. Like I said, if you like Parks and Rec, if you like The Office, things like that, the humor is very, very similar. But I would tell you the production value, like any one of Amazon's shows, is top notch. Very convincing special effects. The show offers a mix of kind of funny, heartwarming moments, even some love scenes. But they're they finished up season 2. Season 3 is being released right now. So tons of content to binge right now if you're looking for a show that's a little bit more kind-hearted than those original 2. Definitely upload a recommendation from me.
Dart around more and make duck sounds. Quack, 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 quack. You're doing good.
Up next, we have an action thriller featuring Chris Pratt in a slightly unconventional role from what we're used to seeing him portray. But The Terminal List is next on this list. It is based on a novel by Jack Carr. Main character is Commander James Reese, portrayed by Chris Pratt. Reese is a former Navy SEAL who gets caught up in all kinds of things, uncovering some really high-level conspiracies that reach the highest echelons of the government, ultimately resulting in some tragedies. But the cast is extremely well-known actors in here. You have Taylor Kish, Jai Courtney, Janine Tripplehorn, Constance Wu, and many others that really elevate this show. The show does, from the very beginning, the first episode hit like a truck. It doesn't really pull any punches, but Commander Reese, his life kind of takes a really dark turn, and he discovers that his wife and daughter have been essentially brutally murdered in the show, and he becomes extremely suspicious, and even at points in the show you feel like he's a very unreliable narrator as you're seeing things from his perspective, and he seems to be very blurry and fuzzy, but he's kind of driven by his grief and desire for revenge against the people who attacked his family. So he embarks on this mission to bring those responsible to justice. So he fights through the memory gaps, trying to put the pieces together. And again, the series is a roller coaster. It's up and down, action. There's lots of great choreography in here. Again, Amazon pumping a ton of money into the show to make it feel very, very real, with practical effects and CGI in different situations. But the Terminal List is full of complex emotions, from military life to coming home to the toll that takes on soldiers and things like that. But it does capture a really cool aspect of it. What I think is a really cool aspect of it is the camaraderie and the loyalty that the soldiers feel for each other, their brothers that they come home with. If you're interested in titles like Reacher, Jack Ryan, the Bourne movies, Terminal List is 100% a must-watch for you. Action, military drama, conspiracy theories, it's got it all. And I mean, like I mentioned earlier, that kind of that fuzziness, that mental capacity type of thing that you see in the Bourne movies, but it's a smaller commitment than some of the others on the list right now. It's currently only 1 season, but exciting for a lot of people is that they have renewed it. Just not 100% sure when that new season is going to be released at this time, but definitely a recommendation. Sit down, binge, and go for a little bit of an action ride there with Chris Pratt and the others. Number 5 on this list actually makes me a little sad to talk about, only because it's over. It was such a phenomenal show with characters and a storyline that I really enjoyed. Kind of brought together all the things that I really enjoy about a TV show. Is great character work, great adventure, a little sci-fi fantasy journey in it. But that shows The Expanse. It definitely has a place on this list. I watched it in a little bit. It came out back in 2015, but couldn't make a list about Amazon shows without including this on here. This show is set in the future where humanity's actually colonized the entirety of the solar system. That includes different planets and the asteroid belt in our solar system. It's a captivating science fiction series. It's got a phenomenal storyline, like I'd mentioned, but the story revolves around this crew of misfits that are brought together by some weird twists of fate and just coincidence in certain situations. They crew a ship called the Rocinante. It is as much a part of the crew as any of the people that are on it, but it becomes entangled, the crew and the ship, in this massive conspiracy that they're not even aware of at the beginning, but they start to learn about and become more involved in. But it's spanning the whole solar system, could end up starting a war between Earth and Mars and the Belt colonies, revolting against them. So I really only originally, back when I started watching this, turned it on because of Thomas Jane, a huge fan of his. Loved him in The Punisher and things like that. And he plays an interesting, integral part of the show, but he kind of wasn't even my favorite character. There's so many great characters, from Stephen Strait as James Holden, you've got Wes Chatham as Amos Burton, Dominique Tipper as Naomi Nagata. So tons and tons of awesome characters, so many more than I can name right here. But these solar system factions might seem out of this world, but they do a really, really good job making them relatable, because they do mirror some superpowers that we see here on Earth, just in our regular political lives. Earth, a very wealthy, powerful nation at this point, banking on its natural resources that it provides to others throughout the solar system. Mars, the militaristic, regimented colony that is always seeking to expand their territory. The Belt is more of the working class faction. It's like a coal mining town type of feel when you're in those moments with those people. It has beautiful sets. World building's phenomenal. You never feel like you're just watching somebody standing on the set of an actual TV show. You feel like you're actually in a spaceship or on a planet, because they do a really, really good job with every detail. We've talked about it with others that Amazon pumps a ton of money into these shows to make them very, very real. And they always explore some profound themes in their shows too. This one talks about artificial intelligence, the perils that come with that, some ethical dilemmas with human augmentation, just the challenges of expanding from Earth into interstellar empires and humanity and things like that. So definitely a recommendation for me. I love this show. It has 6 seasons. It's a commitment, but 100% worth the journey. I definitely wish there were more seasons, to be honest. I'd go and watch more if they would reignite this show or get a spin-off from it. Definitely my vote. But offers intelligent writing. I love stories, deceit, betrayal, friendship, thought-provoking, even some political drama if you're into that. So it has a little bit of everything. So definitely a recommendation of The Expanse for anybody that's looking to binge something. It has a little bit more content to it with 6 full seasons. Hey everybody, if you like the content so far and you like what we're recommending, we definitely would appreciate it if you guys would take the time to like, comment, and subscribe. It's free, it doesn't cost you anything, it really helps the channel out and gets our recommendations out to others who might be looking for shows to binge at home. So take the time, we'd really appreciate it. But back to the content and some more recommendations. Next on the list, we're going to dive into the Peripheral, a mind-bending science fiction TV series that was released on Amazon back in 2022. It was brought to life by Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy. They worked together on Westworld, Jonathan Nolan being Christopher Nolan's brother. But this is actually based on a novel by William Gibson. But similar to Upload, this show is set in the not-so-distant future. People are plugging into simulated worlds using brain-computer interfaces. So similar to Upload, kind of that virtual reality experience. This is just, don't have to die to get there. Meet Flynn Fisher. She's the main character of this show. She's played by Chloe Grace Moretz. She's just a small town girl trying to make ends meet when she stumbles upon a job offer through her brother that has to do with these brain computer interfaces, but it sends her down a crazy Alice in Wonderland level rabbit hole that she just wasn't ready for. The Peripheral, it's a head-spinning series. It's confusing at times. You definitely have to pay attention during this one, so try not to to watch it right before you go to sleep and miss some of the key components of it. And you definitely have to rewind and rewatch some of those to make sure you understand what's going on. But it's taking us deep into that rabbit hole, reality, AI ethics, and tech perils, just like some of the other shows that we've talked about. But the best part of this show is not really knowing what's going on, though. And it can be annoying if you're not 100% paying attention, but if you are paying attention, you can still be a little lost until you see the mystery kind of unfold in front of you with each episode. It definitely makes you want to continue to watch the next episode. I can attest that I've got stuck binging this one as well. So if you've noticed this trend, Amazon shows do spend tons of money on their production, and this one is the same way. When they're in this virtual reality world, the CGI and the effects that are utilized are amazing. The worlds that you see are really, really awesome, as well as just the reality that you feel when you are actually back, not in the VR world. You can see just the everyday life. It's really cool how they've infused futuristic technology into just everyday life. It doesn't seem like anything has really changed until you see some of the technology and how it's evolved. But Flynn Fisher, Chloe Grace Moretz, she's got a ton of supporting cast members that are awesome as well. Jack Rayner, Gary Carr, Tina Miller, they're all great. They hold their own in this show. And there's some great writing and interaction and character building moments that you see along the way, especially between the brother and sister who kind of lead the way and their just family bond. But if you're into science fiction, The Peripheral is a much must watch for you. The show's vision of the future feels eerily real, but it still has that science fiction backbone. It tackles deep questions like some of the other shows, like I'd mentioned. So if you're into that thing, science fiction, Marvel, or aficionado, as I would call it, you don't want to miss this. Trust me, give it a go. It's only one season right now, but it's definitely worth binging and checking out.
Because it's not real. It's an augmentation.
This entry on the list is another one of Amazon's older shows that premiered back in 2015. It's definitely late to the party on this one. I didn't watch it until a few years after it originally released, but The Man in the High Castle, I was reluctant to watch it because I'd seen the trailers. I wasn't 100% certain it was something that I'd be interested in, so I moved on to different shows and just kind of fell to the wayside. But a friend of mine badgered me to watch it, and it seemed like for years, and he was right. It was a great watch, and it's definitely something that deserves to be on this list and a recommendation here. The Man in the High Castle is an American dystopian science fiction television series created by Frank Spotnitz. Those of you that are fans of The X-Files may recognize the name, but the show, it's based on a 1962 novel of the same name by Philip K. Dick. The Man in the High Castle is set in an alternate history where the Axis powers won World War II, and it divided the United States up into three parts. The Pacific states, controlled by the Japanese on the west coast, the Greater Nazi Reich on the east coast, and then a somewhat neutral zone in the Rocky Mountain states in the middle of the country. It's kind of a wild, wild west of the United States at this point, as they depict it through the show. The story itself is following Juliana Crane. She's the main character in the show. She's played by Alexa Davalos, a young woman who lives in the Pacific states and discovers a mysterious film at the beginning of the show that's given to her by her sister that shows a different version of history, one that actually happened in real life, where the Allies won the war. Even being a bit older than some of the other shows on the list, The Man in the High Castle holds up to the test of time. It follows the same format as the others on the list. It's visually stunning. It explores tons of thought-provoking themes throughout this series, like alternate history, of course, and then human resilience and others that you'd see throughout the series. But the series has been praised by critics, fans for strong acting, intelligent writing, and stunning visuals. Like many of the other shows on this list, Amazon pumps tons of money into these shows, makes them look amazing, brings in the best writers and directors for these shows. But the cast itself, led by Alexa Davalos as Juliana Crane, is also supported by some other great actors, Rupert Evans, Kiri Hiroyuki Tagawa, and Rufus Sewell. Phenomenal actors throughout here that you get to follow along in different journeys. But I think one of the things about the show that I enjoyed the most was how well they did at depicting the alternate history. That made it seem extremely believable. Everything that they depict, given the turn of events, could have really happened. And despite the vast differences of obviously what happened, it shows a world that is very different from our own, but it's also extremely familiar and seems very much the same. So overall, definitely recommend The Man in the High Castle. It's definitely a staple on this list. It's smart, it's exciting, it's thought-provoking sci-fi series that doesn't it doesn't go over the top with the sci-fi, but definitely entertains you. Even fans that aren't specific sci-fi fans, this is a great show.
And on the second day, God created the hunters.
To carry on with what seems like a theme at this point in the list, I want to bring up what I think is one of Amazon's most underrated shows. That show is Hunters. It's a show that's set in 1977 New York City. It follows a group of hunters who are on a mission to track down and kill a group of Nazis who've escaped to the United States after World War II. The group itself is led by Meyer Offerman, played by Al Pacino. He's a wealthy Holocaust survivor who's obsessed with bringing this group to justice. Offerman's team includes a group of highly skilled and motivated individuals. This ragtag team of people have different areas of expertise that they explore and utilize in different missions throughout the show. Hunters is a dark and suspenseful thriller. It is also thought-provoking at times. It has some humor built into it with some great writing, but Hunters explores themes of fighting for justice. It's both entertaining and thought-provoking along the way. The show itself has been praised for its strong cast, sharp writing, stylish direction, and depiction of the time period. It's also been praised for its realistic depiction of violence, which is something that not all the shows are willing to do. So I know you may be thinking, Greg, that sounds great, but isn't Hunters a little disturbing with all the violence? It can be at times, but Hunters is not all about the violence and the gore. It's a very character-driven show with a lot of heart, a lot of interactions with the characters, becoming this ragtag team, coming together as more of a family, a brotherhood. The characters are complex. They're very relatable. And you really care about what happens to them on their missions. So if you're looking for that smart, thought-provoking, entertaining thriller show, then I highly recommend checking out Hunters. You won't be disappointed. With that great cast, Al Pacino leads it as Miles Offerman, but the supporting cast is great as well. I mean, you've got Kate Mulvaney, you've got Josh Radnor, you've got Logan Lerman supporting him along the way. And it's well written, so it has tons of great dialogue built into it as well. The direction of this show is very stylish and suspenseful. Hunters can be visually stunning, like I said, with the depiction of the time period, and it has great action sequences and action throughout the whole entirety of it. If you're a fan of this, check it out. One of these underrated shows that not everybody's heard about, but 2 seasons right now. Go binge it. It's a great show. Number 9 on the list today, we're going to talk about Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan. This is one of the best political TV thriller shows that I've ever watched, and it's not a genre that I normally gravitate towards, but Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan is a household name, so it was something that I wanted to check out and see what it was all about. Also have an affinity for John Krasinski. Took me a minute to stop seeing him as Jim in The Office at the beginning of the show, but they do a great job of defining him as this new character. But this is a 2018 American political action thriller television series based on characters from the fictional Ryanverse created by Tom Clancy. The series, like I said, stars John Krasinski as that title character. The series follows Jack, a CIA analyst who uncovers a series of suspicious bank transfers that lead him into all kinds of trouble. Ryan's analysis lead to field assignments in Yemen and other countries around the world where he and his partner James Greer discover a plot that carry out major terrorist attacks across the American country. The cast is amazing. Like I said, John Krasinski, great, huge fan of his, but he's perfect as Jack Ryan. He brings a lot of humanity to it and even hints of humor in somewhat of a non-humorous role. Supporting cast is excellent, including Wendell Pierce as Greer, Abby Cornish, Ali Solomon, Michael Kelly. The writing is phenomenal. The show does a great job of explaining some complex and often secretive things throughout the show. Like many of Amazon's other shows, it explores complex themes such as torture, the ethics behind it, the CIA on American soil, and the nature of terrorism in general. But throughout this, there's, as you can imagine, there's tons of action sequences, and they're great, they're realistic, they're exciting. The show features some of the best action sequences that I've seen on TV in this context, including some particularly memorable one with a helicopter chase. If you check this out, you'll know what I mean, but I avoid a lot of political shows because of the pacing. They kind of bore me, put me to sleep. But Jack Ryan and the writers handled it really well. You never really feel bored watching this show. It kind of keeps you on the edge of your seat. And the first season actually moves at quite a brisk pace, getting up to speed very quickly. And there's never really dull moments. There's not much to dislike about this show, beyond some of it being a little bit heavy at times. It's a show about serious topics and doesn't shy away from depicting some of the violence and brutality of the world of terrorism. So, in addition to those things I mentioned above, I'd really appreciated the show's realism. The show's creators consulted with a lot of experts in the different areas, and you can tell throughout the show the accuracy of some of the things that they're depicting. It does avoid the cliches and stereotypes that are often seen in these types of shows and other Hollywood productions about spies and things like that. And another thing about the show is that it doesn't shy away from the flaws of its main character. A lot of these shows, the character is this really good, perfect, I want to call it James Bond-esque character, where Jack Ryan is a hero, but he's not perfect. He makes mistakes along the way. He learns from them, and it makes him definitely that more relatable and believable character too. So overall, Jack Ryan, Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan is a must-watch if you're a fan of the political shows, thrillers, or even just an action adventure type of person. It's well made, well acted, well written show that will entertain you from the beginning all the way to the end. So definitely one that you can binge right away. Go check it out.
Weren't involved. Doesn't that concern you?
No, sir. It terrifies me.
You and your friends can leave now, or they can carry your fat ass out in a bucket.
Last but definitely not least on this list, we're going to talk about Reacher. This is one of my personal favorites on the list. Me and my wife are actively rewatching the show right now in preparation for the newer season coming out on December 15th. This is a show, it's a 2022 American crime series based on the Jack Reacher book series by Lee Childs. It stars Alan Ritchson as the title character, Jack Reacher, but everyone just calls him Reacher, and he's the first to remind them during this show. I'm personally a huge fan of Ritchson from all the way back in his days on Blue Mountain State. This first season follows Reacher, the former military policeman and self-proclaimed hobo, as he arrives in the fictional town of Margrave, Georgia. Doesn't even make it to his first bite of pie before he immediately gets drawn into conspiracy involving corrupt police officers, politicians, and businessmen. He quickly learns that Margrave is not as perfect as it seems. The town has a very dark side. It's currently plagued with a series of unsolved murders. Reacher becomes determined to uncover the truth about the murders and to bring it to justice, however he has to get it. Along the way, he teams up with Roscoe. She's a local sheriff's detective, and Detective Finley. They're initially suspicious of Reacher. He arrived right after the initial murder and this spree of murders that are happening in the town, but throughout their adventures, they eventually come to trust him and share the investigation with them side by side, and it leads them to uncover the web of corruption all the way to the top. The first season of Reacher, it's based on Child's 1997 debut novel, The Killing Floor, and is not afraid to remind you of that every single episode at the beginning. But it was a smashing success for Amazon, and a second season was greenlit almost immediately. And that season is going to be based on Bad Luck in Trouble, another one of Child's novels. And then it's going to be released on December 15th. There's a lot of things to love about Reacher. Alan Ritchson is perfect as Jack Reacher. Those familiar with the Reacher movies that have came out in the past know Tom Cruise. He was awesome in those movies, but the character itself fits Ritchson way better. He provides this enormous presence on the show. Super intellectual investigator along the way with some wit and some amazing yet dry sense of humor. Ritchson embodies this character perfectly. If you've read the books, he's exactly what you depict when you see this character. And the action sequences in this are epic. They're exciting and sometimes downright savage. Reacher is a show that's just not afraid to get down and dirty. The action, like I said, is brutal, realistic, tons and tons of fun to watch. And one of the really cool things about this show is it keeps it fast-paced. It keeps you hooked right from the beginning and doesn't drag its feet at all. And it's kind of hard to put down throughout this show, to be honest. The story moves at a brisk pace. There's always something new, intriguing, mysterious happening right then and there. The supporting cast is excellent as well. Reacher is surrounded by a cast of talented actors: Willa Fitzgerald, Malcolm Goodwin, Bruce McGill, Maria Sten. And this supporting cast brings a lot of the other elements to the show that the Reacher character couldn't do just by himself. And on top of the action, thrills, and the beatdowns, there are plenty of other aspects. There's romance, there's buddy cop humor, there's mystery. The show's writers do a good job of balancing the action and the drama with some of that more lighthearted aspects of it.
if I had to nitpick the show at all, it can be a bit predictable at times. It does follow some familiar cliches of the action drama, but how it does it so well that you really don't even mind it. So overall, Reacher must watch. You guys definitely check it out. It's worth the binge, and soon going to be 2 seasons to binge through. It's sure to entertain you guys from the beginning all the way to the end, and you'll be patiently or impatiently waiting for the newest season, just like me and my wife. And after that, that's going to end our list here today, guys. Thanks for taking the time to go through it with us. If you made it all the way here to the end, take a moment, like, comment, subscribe. It really helps out the channel, or share this out for others who are looking for shows to binge. We really appreciate it, and we'll see you guys next time.